Hello, I'm Arthur. Welcome to my kitchen. As more and more chemicals are being added to our food, I'm more and more interested in making my own food from much more basic ingredients and ensuring that that food doesn't contain all these unnecessary chemicals. So while reviewing videos on other topics on YouTube, I came across some videos about 18th century cooking by Mr. Towson, I believe. I'll post a link to this in the description. And one of the topics that he covered was making your own butter. And then I looked at some other videos on the same topic, and I decided to give it a try. So for starters, unfortunately I went to Walmart. I didn't want to spend money on organic, good whipping cream, so I just went with the cheapest, and usually I try to avoid shopping at Walmart. But this time I just went with cheap ingredients to get started and experiment before I spend more money on better ingredients. Anyway, to make butter you need this heavy whipping cream. It has to be a high fat content. I believe recommended is at least 80% fat content. So just a carton of whipping cream and a jar. In the simplest approach, all you need is some cream and a jar that you can tightly close. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use my mixer to get things started because using just a jar is kind of a lot of work. So the way you do this is you fill your jar to about halfway, like so. The jar is half full. And normally, again, the simplest approach, if you don't have a mixer, is just close the jar, put it in a plastic bag in case it leaks, and then just shake it. But I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to transfer this cream into my mixer and start mixing it first. And this will probably save me about 10 minutes. Making your butter will take you about 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll be shaking your jar all this time, so that's a good workout. You get both a very delicious fresh butter and some exercise. But again, I'm going to cheat and start with my mixer, and then once I end up with whipped cream and once it starts separating, I'll transfer it to jar and then finish in the jar, which is better approach than just using mixer throughout, because towards the end of the process the liquid separated from butter will start splashing out, and so you just will create a mess. So here we go. So right now I ended up with a very nice thick whipped cream, and if you like some whipped cream in your coffee, you might want to reserve some of this whipped cream, maybe add some sugar into it, and enjoy it in your coffee or whatever else you like it in. So once we reach this stage, the next stage will be after some more whipping, will be formation of butter. And again, as soon as I see some liquid appearing here, that will be my sign to transfer this mass into the jar and just start shaking it. And actually, it did not take long at all for the butter to start forming, for the liquid to appear. So I'm going to clean out my still whipped cream. See if I can get some of it off of these stirrers and into my jar. I may need to use a spoon for this. So I want to get as much of this goodness as possible into my jar. And the rest of it is great for licking. Especially if you have little critters at home, I'm sure they'll be happy to lick what's left on these stirrers. And then the rest of the contents goes in the jar. When filling the jar, try to avoid making air pockets in the jar. You can see some of them here. Try to fill the jar as fully as possible, because as you can see, from half a jar of whipping cream, I ended up with a full jar of this whipped cream slash butter. It actually tastes more like butter at this point than whipped cream. And to get this mass to settle a little bit, what you can do is hold the jar on a flat surface and tap it like that. This will make it kind of settle down, and so you can add a little bit more to the jar. But I barely managed to fit all of this in, or all of my whipped cream into this jar. So now I'm putting it in a bag again to make sure that no liquid splashes. I close the jar tightly, but just in case. And then I just start shaking, just like that. You shake it really fast. You can do it in any direction you want. You can change the directions from time to time, and just shake it as long as you have to until you see a ball of butter form surrounded by buttermilk. So it's been about 6 minutes. Feels like 60. I'm all out of breath, but by now I can see and hear this liquid squashing around, and also there's a solid mass in my jar, which is the butter. You can clearly hear the sound of a liquid, and that's your buttermilk. So just some finishing touches, but I think that should do it. Let's see what's inside. See this yellow mass? This is your fresh butter, freshly made. No additives, no chemicals other than whatever was in this whipping cream, of course. But again, if you go with the organic whipping cream, you'll have your organic homemade butter. And the liquid is buttermilk. You can drink it. It's very good. very enjoyable drink, especially after spending all this time whipping the butter. I'm sure you can go for a refreshing drink. Cheers. Very good, very rich. You could even use it as creamer for your coffee maybe. And here's my freshly made butter. And there's a good amount of it. This will probably last me 2 weeks, maybe even more, because I don't really use all that much butter. So plenty of butter from just a half a carton of this whipping cream. 32 ounces, almost a liter. So half a liter makes you a good amount of butter. Enjoy. There's plenty more in the jar. I just don't want to spill it. But yeah, let's do it here. I guess I'll have to convince it to come out. And you can put it on like wax paper. You can still knead this butter to squeeze out more liquid, because there's still more liquid interlocked in there. But it didn't bother me when I used my first batch. I just used it like that, and yeah, there was some liquid in there. Not a problem. And you can cut it to smaller portions. You can freeze some for later, whatever works for you. I'm looking for wax paper. I think I've ran out of it, so I won't be wrapping it. Well, last time around I just used cling wrap. So just a piece of cling wrap. Plop your butter on it. Here's some more on the spoon. And you can make a little ball out of it, or put it in some jar, whatever works for you. That's plenty of butter.